Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. And I'm super excited today. Why? Because Meadow Kouffeld, my co-host for 2019, and Meadow and I got together when she was a finalist for Extreme Huntress. And we talked, and I asked her if she would come on board with Whitetail Rendezvous to talk to women in the outdoors. And one of her good buds, good friends is Heather Shaw. And Meadow introduced Heather and get the conversation rolling.
Well, Heather Shaw is the Regional Biologist for the Ruffed Grouse Society and American Woodcock Society in Michigan. She can get into the states that she covers, but that's how we met initially, was when I was the Regional Biologist for the Ruffed Grouse Society here in Minnesota. And we bonded over fire towers and habitat tours up at Red Lake WMA, which is my old graduate school stomping grounds, and found a pretty deep connection to Heather in a very short amount of time. So I'm super pleased to have Heather join us here today and talk about conservation in the outdoors. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you both for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. So one of the things that we connected over was hunting, obviously, and you're a lady that is an avid outdoorswoman, hunter, angler, and previous barrel racer, and something you would like to return to at some point in life. But how about you we bonded over some hunting stories, and one of the ones that really impressed me was this archery elk hunting story that you had told me back in the day.
Sure, I can elaborate on that as well. And I definitely agree with you, Meadow. We did have a good connection and a deep-rooted passion for the outdoors that I think brought us together immediately. Our career paths have been the same, and we've got some similar background and similar stories too. So, I'm really excited to join you guys. Thank you again for having me. A bit about me, I am a native Michigander, and I grew up barrel racing, and that was my passion. So I was training horses and traveling all over, trying to compete and making a name for myself in the barrel racing world, in the rodeo world, essentially, and grew up still in the outdoors. So I, from Southern Michigan originally, now I live in Northern Michigan, and my parents were both pilots. They were very deep-rooted in the outdoors, loved to camp and take us me and my younger brother, to rustic areas, and they were big anglers as well. So I started off actually angling, and then when I kind of switched into changed gears into wildlife biology, my career path took me to hunting immediately as a tool for conservation, and something that I was very passionate about and really felt a connection to in the outdoors as well. So basically in my early 20s, when I was about 21, I started hunting. So I got a little bit of a late start, and I've kind of been self-taught from there, which has its trials and tribulations and challenges as well. I've had a few folks that have mentored me along the way too, but it really has just largely been up to me to make things go in the direction that I want them to go. So out of undergrad, I received my bachelor's in wildlife biology, wildlife management from Central Michigan University. I immediately took a position. Game birds were my passion. I started duck hunting before anything else and turkey hunting following soon after. And not until a little bit later in life got into grouse hunting. So I immediately took a position with the Wyoming Game and Fish Department as a game bird biologist technician and moved to Wyoming at the ripe age of 25, 26. And I didn't know anyone. At the time, I didn't have a bird dog, but I was really passionate about the resource and couldn't wait to get out there and see what opportunities living out west would bring to me. It was just a passion. Who doesn't dream about going out west as not only a young biologist, but anyone that's passionate about hunting in the outdoors. So out I go, and I was living in Casper. I was based throughout the state, though. I worked in the western part of the state, you name it. I was working with multiple different game bird species, mostly waterfowl, and had an opportunity to finally go on my first elk hunt living out there. I also pursued mule deer and antelope on the Thunder Basin National Grassland. So I got over-the-counter, essentially, an archery tag for bull elk, and I went on a DIY backcountry hunt to an area that I had only previously scouted once before. So I went out to Medicine Bow National Forest right outside of Laramie in southeast Wyoming and had an opportunity to stay at a game and fish cabin where conservation officers would typically stay. So I had about a week off of work and had a chance to get out there and at least do some early scouting and try to get a game plan in place and see if I could get on a few bulls. So initially, the first 4 days, I started striking out. I had some really good contacts. I had bulls kind of crashing in pretty late in the evening, actually, using some old tactics I think people are pretty aware of, with a whittled down white pine that I had kind of roasted over the fire as well. raking that back and forth between trees and trying to just mock another territorial bull as much as I could. And I think what might have been a 300 class bull come in when it was just too dark out, and I thought I was actually going to get ran over.
Want to become a smarter deer hunter? Know when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Well, Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created to do exactly that, because many people have told me they struggle with spending all days in the wood and never seeing a deer, only shooting does and young deer, leaving the woods empty-handed way too many times. Found this wonderful, but just couldn't get on them, having difficult finding a place to hunt, recognizing possible mistakes you're making every year, having tried and failed to find qualified mentors who deliver results. If you had these frustrations or struggles, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com, and there you'll find a 13-module course to help you solve these problems. Again, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com and find some answers.
So I couldn't see through my pins. There was obviously an ethical shot to be made on that animal. I found a few active wallows and heard a few other elk hunters in the area that had set up a base camp down at the bottom. One of the other outcrops that I was kind of focusing on. I was ready to basically call it. I had one day left and I had an opportunity. I was just doing a lot of glassing at that point in time and kind of reflecting. I came across, I guess I should back up, and I still don't carry a sidearm. So I just had my bow, a few knives and everything I needed in my pack, lots of snacks, and came across a few bear. Didn't see any mountain lion out there, but I had some fun wildlife encounters, and it was just a good time for self-reflection too. And finally had an opportunity with a small bull that came out over the aspen into this kind of grassy clearing, and I was still above him glassing and knew that there was no way I'd be able to put a sneak. There was a little island of aspen kind of between us. Wouldn't be able to put a sneak on him unless I was really, really stealthy and had to think about what my strategy might be to at least make it to that island and get within a shot that provided, within range, a shot that provided opportunities. So I took my boots off and snuck down and made it to the island without spooking. Just put a nice shot on him, and he crashed down in the aspens, only for me to find out that there were a couple elk hunters just inside the tree line there in the timber that saw him cruise by. So I can only imagine the adrenaline rush that they went through as well. And
Good
from there, it was just kind of...
Thoughts on that?
Heather, did you have those guys help you get the bull out?
No. I ran into them really briefly. They were pretty shaken up. They're like, your bull's right there, and we parted ways. I had heard them kind of cow calling throughout the week. I had a feeling someone else was in the area as well. That was the first time I had seen them. At that point, it was evening. I ended up just going back to where I had parked the truck, hiked back down the mountain, and went back into camp and ended up retrieving the bull the next morning.
Did you call some of your buddies at Fish and Game, or did you do it by yourself?
No, I didn't really tell many people I was out there either. So no, I was by myself. So it took some time. It was definitely a process, and it's something, I mean, I've deer hunted before, so quartering out a deer and packing that out is somewhat similar, but yeah, it took me quite a while. And luckily I did have a quad at least that I could put everything on and then haul it out.
Could you get the quad right to it?
Not right to it. I got pretty close. So it definitely helps. It wasn't a full pack out just on my pack, on a frame pack.
Right. Because if you've ever hunted elk and been fortunate enough to harvest an elk, to kill an elk, put it on the ground, it's work. I mean, you need a lot of parachute cord, you need sharp knives, and you need to be patient. What did you learn about taking apart your first elk?
Like anything, it's a process. It's a chess game. I was concerned about other predators in the area. Luckily, I was bow hunting. I wasn't making a lot of noise. I wanted to get out of there before it was really dark, and I made the trek back to at least get back in and kind of just process and digest what had just happened and what I'd gone through. It was a pretty spiritual moment, honestly, and then being able to know that I had harvested that animal and still had the opportunity myself and the knowledge to be able to know that I was going to take care of that game and every piece of that animal was coming back with me was really rewarding. Until someone, I think, has gone through that and challenged themselves and pushed themselves into conditions that they might not be familiar with and kind of unknown territory, I think it really tells you a lot about yourself and what you're capable of.
One last question. Did you gut it out with a headlamp?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I had a few backup headlamps, too. But, yeah, so I gutted it out and ended up leaving it that night, too. So yeah, I was just going to say in the morning, that's what I was concerned about, too. I was worried about predators still being, potentially on the end trail, still moderately in the area. I tried to get them as far away as I could for the time being. But
did you hang any clothes?
No.
I've thrown jackets, and I've actually peed around the whole area, and to get as much sun as I can to hang there. So they'll put their nose up because bears know people in the area, and that's just a good thing to do. And the other question I had, hunting alone in today's society, why don't you carry a small 9?
Small 9? It's something, I don't know. I really don't know why I don't bring a sidearm with me. And even now, I bird hunt quite a bit with a dog. That means the world to me in wolf country and bear country as well, which I'm not as concerned about bears. So it's something that I just haven't really gotten into. I've been gaining some interest in a few pieces that are small and a little bit more manageable, because weight is everything too. But I just felt comfortable with my bow and the few knives that I had on me as well at that point in time. So in your 20s, hindsight is 20/20. You don't really think about precautions of safety and other precautions that you should probably take. I mean, you do so much to prepare for something like this anyway. I think a lot of people might just say something like that might not ever happen to me, or maybe I'll never get into that experience. That's helpful too, to just know wildlife behavior as well and some signs to look for, and just being aware of my surroundings and making sure I wasn't getting into any situations that could have been a bit cautionary. I think just ended up working out for me in the long run.
Situational awareness. Unfortunately, I've been in the mountains of Colorado and run into people that are growing drugs, and they're armed, and it's like, I don't want to be here. And I have the concealed carry, and I carry a small 9 just because of that. Now, I know guys that just carry a 9 on the side because things have changed in the mountains, and it's just, you just have to be cognizant of that. You mentioned aware of your surroundings, situational awareness, but folks heading out west, you just really got to be careful hunting on national forests. And if you see anything that they don't look like hunters, just get the heck out of there. Just leave. Go to a different place, because a confrontation isn't worth it. And that's my 2 cents on that. Heather, through Extreme Huntress and all the things that you've seen, is there any conversations about situational awareness in public lands these days?
There is. That's been a conversation that in the past was not highly regarded. I mean, as a woman in the outdoors, I think, and anyone listening to this as well, it's something to really consider. You have to be aware of your surroundings. And I mean, we all know what we're capable of, but in the heat of the moment, if you're confronted with a dangerous situation, keeping your cool and trying to find the best route, again, it's kind of a chess game, trying to find the best way out of a scenario and a situation is really important. So yeah, it's interesting. There's been a lot of conversations with females in the career field that I'm in as well on public lands in the middle of nowhere in the backcountry. Some employees for state and federal agencies have had some run-ins as well, and their stories are now coming to light. The conversation has changed in terms of threats that women might face in the outdoors, and there's definitely something to be cautious about. But I would definitely not allow that to be in the back of anyone's mind who's interested in pursuing something or doing a hunt on their own and really just going a full DIY backcountry situation. You just really need to do your homework. Again, just be aware of your surroundings, stay on your toes, and be safe.
With that said, I wanted to kind of go into the lines of doing the DIY hunts by yourself and how important that is, I think, for the development as a hunter, woman or man. There are people that hunt but have not maybe gone without a guide or gone without somebody taking them along. And I think that for me growing up, some of the biggest moments or the most learning moments were when I was by myself and having to figure it out by myself, not leaning or depending upon somebody else's opinions. But this trial by fire out in the field and how much it brings to somebody, and how much I would like to encourage people, despite some of the things that you may encounter, to go out on your own. Prepare yourself and go out on your own and try and hunt by yourself once you feel like you've got enough in your toolbox. And that's one of the things, like your elk hunting story kind of brings it all together, is how you can do it and how important it is to spend time by yourself and to experience those things sometimes alone, and where that takes you in life.
I could not agree more, and that's a really good point, Meadow. And I think I couldn't encourage women, and anyone for that matter, enough to really go out and find out what you're capable of. But at the same time, when you're alone, you have an opportunity to really learn that much more about an animal's behavior, or how you're going to set up and actually be tactful in being able to pursue the game that you're passionate about, whether you're doing a duck hunt in a remote area or if you're going in the Northwoods of the Great Lakes states on a grouse hunt too. You learn a lot more about strategy, what habitat to look for, what signs and patterns that the wildlife are providing for you that you can actually utilize and use to the best of your ability to actually have a successful hunt and be able to continue to pursue that game and learn more about the animals that we're so passionate about hunting as well. So I could not agree more. You learn a lot about yourself, but also about the game that you pursue. And I think you really develop more of a respect for that species when you challenge yourself and put yourself in those scenarios.
I liken it to driving and riding the passenger seat. if you have to go somewhere and you have to figure out how to get there, you're using a map or looking at your phone ahead of time, and then you're driving there. And so you have this experience where you're driving and you're learning as you go, you're making decisions, you're in the driver's seat. But if you're the passenger, oftentimes you're like, blah, 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 looking around, not paying attention. At least for me, I couldn't half the time find my way back if I was a passenger. And so it's very much like that. It's like if you drive, you're experiencing it in a very in-person manner rather than being someone that's just taken along. You learn so much more as the driver than you do the passenger, because I think a lot of people miss out on truly learning, like you said, from that experience by being taken by somebody else over and over and over again. And I realize people are short in a time, and it's important for them to have success sometimes in the field more than it is the experience. But I feel like so many people miss out by not being the driver and not being the one who makes the decisions or the one who ties the dots together. Just like an elk hunt where you've had multiple opportunities, you learn from each bull, you learn from each setup, and then at some point it connects. And it doesn't matter what the end product is, as long as there's an animal that's been either harvested ethically or nothing. You still, as the driver or as the hunter by yourself, you learn so much more than if you're just being taken, and how important it is to do those solo hunts for people.
I agree more. I mean, just like anything in life, you have to learn to take the reins in your hands, take control of your situation. And I think those challenges keep us on our toes, and we're constantly learning, and we're always humbled and a student to the wildlife and the game that we pursue. But I think the true measures of success are when we push ourselves past those boundaries, out of our comfort zone, and really drive into some new experiences. So I agree.
Yeah. You've got a gun dog now. This helped change the dynamic. At least I know you had one before, I think, but now you've got a setter. Can you tell me a little bit about your setter and kind of the new adventures associated with having a setter?
Oh, there's always adventures, and this is going to probably spark some really good debate in some circles of the world. Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. So I have my first setter. I have a Llewellyn. He's a 1.5 years old right now. His name is Chip. If any of you follow my social media adventures, there's nothing but pictures of Chip, essentially. He goes everywhere with me. He goes on a lot of different field visits and consultations and projects, job sites for my job. I'm fortunate to be able to travel with him. We get a lot of windshield time, but he's really kind of come into his own now. So it's been a learning curve for me. Yeah, I did have a lab prior to that. So I've been duck hunting. I started duck hunting again for probably 17 years about, but grouse hunting I'm still fairly new to. So I'm only about a decade in grouse hunting. So Chip is my new setter. I feel as though with a different hunting style, I have just as much to learn as he does. So he's been a really, really fun guy to work with. And there's definitely a journey, and we're still on it. He's still a young pup. So just trying to get him as much bird exposure as possible in the states that we work within. I work within Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, and then hunt within the Great Lakes states as well. And Meadow, you and I have had some great opportunities to get our dogs out together in the Minnesota Northwoods too a few times. And I know I'm hopeful, obviously, that will continue too. Yeah. So it's great to have him out with dogs and other people. Right now, it's just all about the journey, and the life of a young bird dog always has its thrills. So we're going a bit crazy right now in northern Michigan. We're buried under about 5 feet of snow, so it's hard to work dogs and get out on some exposure. We had a fun opportunity to go on a women's hunt 2 weeks ago, though, and at least get out do a walk-up hunt on some pheasant. So we still instilled some bird scent into the into the nose during our break, too, during the off-season. So right now we're just working on just yard work and handling, and been working with someone previously. I've received a lot of really good advice from other folks in the dog community, and the upland hunting community has been really supportive. And I've got some people that have given me some great advice. Meadow, you being one of them too, as an experienced dog handler and trainer. So I'm finding my way. We're getting our sea legs, and I'm really excited about what this season has in store for us. I'm just loving the process of seeing him put the pieces together, and also trying to, again, with situational awareness, trying to gauge how he's going to approach a situation, going into an area where we do have good bird contacts too, because you never know. I mean, at this point in time, I can try to read the habitat and escape routes and his body language as well and his behavior. But at the end of the day, at the heat of the moment, that's when things really connect too. So it's just been great. Life with a bird dog is unmatched.
Do you want to become a smarter whitetail hunter, knowing when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Over the past 4 years, people have asked me, Hey, I'm struggling with spending all day in the woods and never seeing a deer, only getting opportunities at doe or young bucks, leaving the woods empty-handed too many seasons. Located the deer of a lifetime, but just flat out missed. Having difficulties finding a place to hunt? Recognizing mistakes that you're making over and over again, and you want to eliminate them. Having tried and failed to find qualified mentors? Well, you've come to the right place. Why? Because Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created by me, Bruce Hutchin. It's a 13-module course that'll talk about being lost in the deer hunting forest, never hunted. What is a hunter? What is an adult onset hunter? What rules apply? Finding a mentor, choosing a weapon, finding a place to hunt, scouting a hunt location, stand sites, stand access and exit, reading sign, and when to hunt. All these are available for you at deerhuntinginstitute.com. Go now to deerhuntinginstitute.com and sign up for the best deer hunting course in America.
You mentioned the ladies hunt. I know that you get the opportunity to introduce women to hunting quite often, and whether it's introducing someone new or keep them interested in it through social media contacts or even just perpetuating their exposure in the outdoors by taking them. What do you get from that?
Sorry, did you say what do I get from that?
Yeah, like how does it make you feel? I know that I personally get a lot from being able to share my passion and things that I love with other women, and I have a feeling that you are on the same page in that regard.
That's a thrilling experience. And I know we're both so passionate about getting women out in the outdoors, and getting that experience and that exposure is critical. But making sure that it's a fun and positive experience is also really important too, and making sure that there's a comfort zone created there for people in a comfortable learning environment where they're not pressured. There's no fear of judgment as women. I know we can always be guilty of thinking that sometimes too, which we shouldn't, but we do. It's human nature, I suppose. So it is the biggest thrill for me, getting anyone new to the outdoors exposed. But women create over hunts like that and experiences like that is really unmatched. And there's a support system there that you don't normally find in other activities potentially. It's just like being a part of a team, I suppose. I mean, you're having that love of the outdoors and that passion for the outdoors and seeing the look on someone's face when they have a successful hunt or the first time they're working over a great bird dog and just seeing a dog work and enjoying that camaraderie is just phenomenal. It's so heartwarming. I know you're so extremely passionate about it. I am as well. And it's really amazing to see women come into their own right now. The field is exploding. We're the biggest growing demographic in hunters, while we're seeing declines in all other demographics as well across the board for folks that hunt and participate in the outdoors. So women are coming on strong, and they're fierce, and they're independent, and they're making a name for themselves and paving their own way. So it's what a time to be a woman in the outdoors, passionate about hunting and angling, whatever it may be.
Agreed.
Whatever experiences that people are pursuing. Absolutely. It is so motivating, and it's an amazing experience right now, and I could not be more thrilled to be a part of it.
You've come a long ways even in the last decade, and it is amazing to think of where you and I were maybe in our 20s and perspectives that I've dealt with. Men, not necessarily sure why I was in the field. I think I may have told you the story before. I was in college and I was deer hunting in California where I went to college, and these guys just rolled up, and I had just hiked out of this hellhole of a canyon, and they were like, "Where's your husband? Did your husband or boyfriend help packing his buck out?" And then they started acting like I was lying, that I was by myself and that I was just hiding my boyfriend or husband's deer. It was a weird experience. And today, those sorts of interactions are less and less. And it's a good feeling in that regard. And then also just to see the amount of support for women's gear and shotguns. You have a shotgun that is pretty specialized. Currently myself looking for a left-handed version of the shotguns I like, and it's just nice to have options now, whether it's customized guns or guns that are made specifically for women. So there's a lot of wonderful things happening in regards to women being perceived more as hunters and outdoors people, and also the opportunity to have gear that is specialized for us ladies. And so I'm feeling pretty optimistic with the surge of participation and the number of women that I've met even in the last couple of years or even the last year that are just as outdoors oriented and avid as you or I, and just as hardcore. I hate to use that word, but it's true. It's really been a very inspiring couple of years. Even the last 3 years really has been great. I increased my involvement and How do you feel about that? Have you kind of seen the same?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, hardcore is the perfect word for it. I mean, women are just blowing the lid off of things, shattering that glass ceiling, if you want to phrase it that way. Just beer in general. Companies like Prowess, 15 years ago, companies like that didn't exist. 15, 20 years ago when we started, I had a lot of hand-me-downs and things that didn't fit. And that's awful. When you're trying to that you need, it's really trying, and adds another layer of challenges too. Yeah, just to see the explosion of women, gear for women by women as well, and companies where these ladies are out just shattering things and pursuing really, really challenging game too, and supporting other women is phenomenal. So it's, like I said, what a time to be a woman in the outdoors right now. I could not agree more in terms of shotgun fit, or, for a southpaw like yourself, we still have some room to grow. Some huge opportunities and some niche markets that I think companies will finally start tackling and start capitalizing on. And what better time than now? It seems like there's a huge need and a lower supply in some aspects of that as well. But it's all about marketing. So there's still some things where companies may fall a little bit short and still maybe a little bit more apprehensive or judgmental towards ladies in the outdoors. But we're fully capable, and I think ladies are proving that more and more every day. And like I said, it's amazing. I mean, this is time to be alive, and this is the future of the next generation of hunters. It really depends on where we go from here. There's a lot of different roads that may lead us to additional great successes in the future too. So I really look forward to it.
Yeah, me too. And I guess that one of the things that always concerns me is whether or not we do have a lot of issues that we're facing right now for conservation, and the declining overall number of hunters and the need for the increase in recruitment of new hunters, and how important it is for people that don't necessarily open their doors to new hunters to maybe consider being a mentor or getting involved with R3. If it's something you truly care about, if you really like to hunt, maybe it's something that a lot of folks should start picking up on more so than they have. And as you know, mentors and volunteers in general are extremely difficult to come by, and oftentimes the shortage when it comes to making that connection of bringing new hunters into the ranks, having someone that can actually teach them. It's great to do it on your own and do things solo, but sometimes you need to start. You need someone who will guide you along in the beginning, at least build those foundational skills. And so along those lines, I think maybe one of the things I wanted to touch on was the importance of mentors and how important it is that people take some time to take other folks out, people that wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to hunt or fish.
There is a huge need for mentors out there. I think there's a lot of people without the resources to be able to just dive right into something and be able to kind of find their way and swim through and learn the skill sets that they really need to be successful and develop that passion. So mentors really play a huge key there. And I would encourage anyone right now, if they're looking for someone, a friend, a family member, someone you don't know, there's a lot of forums and other opportunities on social media where you can get plugged into folks like that. Conservation organizations like Pheasants Forever, the Ruffed Grouse Society, National Wild Turkey Federation offer a lot of mentorship opportunities too, and numerous others I won't list at this point in time. So yeah, it takes someone who has that passion. It might take someone to at least give them a leg up and give them that other opportunity that they may not be able to experience otherwise. So mentoring and taking new folks out is really just a huge passion. And I think there's a lot to be said for the people that really dedicate their time into those R3 efforts. And again, it is the future. We're at a precipice right now with declining hunter numbers. So those individuals who are new to the sport or new to hunting in the outdoors or young within that maybe millennial time range of 18 to 35, that really may kind of carry the future of hunting as a conservation tool into the future are key. We need to make sure that we're addressing that we see them and that we're at least providing opportunities for them wherever we can and whatever that model might look like too. So there's some great programs out there right now. No model is perfect, but just coming across people, providing opportunities to get new folks out in the outdoors and try to teach them a new skill set is an amazing ability that a lot of people have been taking advantage of. And Meadow, I can't tout you enough for your passion and the things that you've done for R3, not only for women, but other folks in the outdoors as well. You've really been a leader there, and it's inspiring.
Well, thanks, Heather. It's a daunting task. I feel lucky to be involved with where I am in the R3 councils and stuff, but it's certainly not me. It's everybody that has been able to help and pitch in for these programs, especially those volunteers. As you know, that Women's Intro to Wing Shooting program I started at RGS, it wouldn't happen without the volunteers. You have to have the local volunteers. Maybe ignite a little fuse, but in reality, it comes down to people that are sharing and passionate and care enough about the future of the sport to volunteer their time without any sort of payment other than the gratification. And so, again, ultimately it boils down to those volunteers, those mentors, and those programs that make it a success. And so I don't know how to motivate people. Sometimes I'm surprised with my experience with the Extreme Huntress, even the popular vote online, how difficult it is to even get someone to take a few minutes to support something they believe in, much less show up and support people that are new to a sport by helping them develop skills over an hour every couple of weeks. And so it's really extremely important to have those mentors. And I think that one of the things that I notice a lot is the imposter syndrome. A lot of folks think that they're not good enough at something to be able to teach it. I feel that way every day at the community college. Like, I should be so much better at certain things. And it's the same way teaching someone to shoot or hunt or fish. To some extent, I know I'm fully competent myself, but every once in a while you get that twinge like, maybe I'm not good enough at this to do this. And I think it's something that a lot of educators deal with, is this imposter syndrome. And certainly for people that are maybe medium skill level or even beginner, they think that there's no way that they can contribute to mentoring because they aren't experienced enough or expert enough. And so I guess one of the things that I always try and encourage people to do is just share regardless of where you're at. And we all learn from each other, regardless of if you're the teacher or the mentee, you're learning constantly. And anyways, I'm babbling, but it's one of those things that I think for everyone to realize that they can be a mentor one way or another, whether or not they help someone with the basic skills all the way to polishing and experts. So, Bruce, what do you think?
I think that the ladies listening and guys, if you have a partner, a wife, a daughter, a sister, get them in the outdoors, and support them. I liked how you mentioned, Heather, about prowess. Kirsty Pike started prowess 10, 12 years ago with basically an idea. She was tired of waving Steve's hand-me-down guys' clothes, and they live in Gunnison, Colorado. And she did two things. One, she brought women's clothes to women, but she also became CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. So you mentioned glass ceiling. And ladies, you have every single opportunity as any man out there. You have to have the passion, dedication, commitment, perseverance to just do what your heart or your passion is. And so I would say that to any listeners. The second thing I would ask you, ladies, if somebody wants to get a hold of you for follow-up questions, how would they do that?
So you can reach me via numerous ways. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, it's Heather Shaw 00. Facebook, you'll just have to hunt and search, I guess, and try to find a picture of me with a shotgun in my hand. Would be more than happy to take some mentors out. And then my email is heatherS@ruffedgrousesociety.org.
All right. And same goes for me, that you can get a hold of me via Instagram and Facebook. My name's pretty easy to search for on either of those platforms. And also can be found on the Itasca Community College website under staff and faculty. You'll be able to get a hold of my email address there is meadow.kouffeld@itascacc.edu. Bruce?
Bird hunting without dogs is nothing like hunting with dogs. So I want to ask you both the question, what's the magic there? Because I don't like bird hunting, walk-up bird hunting, where you don't have a dog. But when I had springers and goldens, I just loved the time, whether we got game or not. It was a magic walk, if you will. So I'd like to, Heather, you start off in Meadow, share with the listeners what the magic is of having a dog work birds for you.
So it's such a good question, too. And the Ruffed Grouse Society and Project Upland just worked together to release a survey, an internal with member-only input, and then an external survey for folks that are not currently Ruffed Grouse Society members. And the majority of them started bird hunting without a dog. And I think that in itself, it's challenging. It's very challenging. And some folks have had great success at it, too. That in itself tells me about passion. Someone is that passionate about the resource and about pursuing these birds, whether it be duck hunting or upland hunting, upland game bird hunting as well. You've got enough tact to get out there and still find a way to make it happen without the resource. Because dog ownership can be costly and burdensome, and it's not potentially for everyone, depending on where you live or what your scenario is. I really give credit to those that still just really wear the boot leather down and pursue birds without a dog. But it is, like I said, life with a bird dog is unmatched. There's something about that connection with that dog and just seeing that dog work and spending time. When it's just me and my setter in the outdoors, life could not really be much better. Depending on the conditions might be. At the end of the day, of course, I want to have as many bird contacts right now as possible, but it's just all about spending time with man's best friend too, a woman's best friend. I talk to a lot of people about the evolution of a hunter, and I think that goes for bird dog owners as well, where at first you really want to make sure that you're flushing a lot of birds, you're getting in contact with a lot of birds, and your game bag comes home full. And then I talk to a lot of people and a lot of good friends of mine later in life in a different part of their hunting career where it's more about the experience. And of course, the experience means everything to all of us too, and the passion for the resource. But they reach that point in time, I think all of us do, where it's more about just seeing that dog work and that companionship rather than coming back with maybe a few birds in the bag too. So it really is just incomparable.
For me, I agree with Heather that it adds so much to the experience. But for me, I've always had stock dogs and hounds, but didn't get into bird dogs till later in life when I didn't have chickens anymore. We had a lot of chickens growing up, so we never had bird dogs. So I started my quail and grouse pursuits without dogs, per se. I had stock dogs with, but dogs, I've always had a partnership with a dog since I was a very young child. And that partnership with a dog to accomplish a task, and especially when it comes to hunting and working stock, is something that I've always felt adds so much to my life and certainly to the experience. And before I had bird dogs, I got the chance to hunt at a few women's pheasant hunts, and of course did hunt waterfowl a fair amount with some of my friends in college before I had a dog. And man, the dogs just add so much because you get to know them. They're like individuals. Obviously they are individuals. And then feel the emotion of watching them be happy and work hard and make mistakes and have success, and just share that experience with a dog and know that they're working for you and with you for an end goal is, I think, in part, it's almost primeval. Humans and dogs have been together from 20 to 12,000 years, and it's something that's so deeply ingrained in who we are to some extent. It's almost like an important part of your life to have a hunting companion or partnership with a dog to accomplish a task. And I feel bad for people who have lost touch with that, because dogs are just, I don't know, they've always been a part of my life. And there were times when I couldn't have dogs when I was in grad school and college, and I really felt like a big piece of me was missing. There was a big hollow hole. And dogs, especially gun dogs, bird dogs, for some reason you have even closer bond with them than you say a stock dog or a hound. They really are a part of who you are after a while, and it's pretty inseparable.
One thing, I went to school in La Crosse, Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, La Crosse, and Alex was my buddy, and he was a Springer Spaniel. And they're not big dogs and don't have a lot of meat in him, but I can remember going out into the islands on the Mississippi. I had a Grumman canoe, and we'd hunt out of that, and we'd get up and I'd set up my decoys and everything, and he'd just take off. I'd let him go, and he'd come back, and I'd hear quack, quack. He had got a wounded duck, and he'd bring it in, and I'd go, and if it was a hen, I was really mad at him. As Drake, I was happy. The hen in the point system wasn't a good thing, but it didn't matter. And I was just amazed because he knew exactly what he was there to do, and he just did it. And greatest dog I ever owned, Alex. I got stories that'll go on forever about Alex. And that's the thing about dogs. And I just echo what you both said, because Alex was part of me. I mean, he was just incredible dog. And people said, how did you get this good? How did you train him? And I trained him personally. I didn't have him finished by a professional at all. And I just trained him because he had that natural ability. He just wanted to hunt, but he also wanted to please. And he knew when he was doing his job, and folks were getting into deeper about gun ownership of dogs or dog ownership, but of a gun dog. But, you develop that bond that's incredible. I mean, it's just an incredible feeling, and you put the hours into them, and then you go afield, and then you see them work, and you see them do everything that you've asked them to do and more. It's amazing. And that's my 2 cents. Hey, thanks for listening to the show tonight. Before we go, can I take a moment and say thank you? Listen, as we started the Whitetail Rendezvous podcast journey, we had no idea what to expect. But after 4 years, we received a ton of feedback from our over 400,000 listeners and climbing to 500,000. Speaking of which, we are now closing in on over 600 featured guests. Thank you. And a quick shout out to all those who have left an iTunes review and your feedback. I get those and really appreciate it. And it's awesome to see what you have to say, and we do read every single one of them. And I just want you to know that I am incredibly grateful for your kind words regarding the show. And all of the ratings and reviews help us attract more listeners. And if you're one of those new listeners, welcome. Great to have you. By the way, if you haven't taken the time to rate and review our show and like the Hunting on Private Land strategy on how to get permission to hunt a private property, go to whitetailrendezvous.com as a special gift for just rating and reviewing our show. When you get there, look for the start button to get the details. Listen, I'll share you the top technique from some of the top hunters in the country on how do they get permission to hunt on private land. I'll share with you the exact techniques they use to get permission, as my way of saying thanks for rating and reviewing the show on iTunes. So join us next time. And remember, we're all on this journey together, learning, sharing, and becoming 365 hunters.
Being a relatively newer mother, it's very much like parenthood. You're proud, and to see the work that you put in together turn into something great. Not only game finding, but game recovery, to actually, like your dog, retrieve wounded animals that maybe not even is a result of your actions. Just, to me, it's like a proud parent moment, when they do as good as they do. And even those moments where they do things that aren't so great, it's a very emotional experience, I think, owning a dog.
So I told you guys about this women's pheasant hunt that I was on, and I couldn't agree with both of you more either. And anyone, like I said, Meadow, I'm quite obsessed with hunting. It's a huge part of my life, though, and we've gone through a lot together, and I'm just excited what the future holds for us. But we were out on this women's pheasant hunt, and I was with another woman who, it was, I think, the 5th time that she'd been hunting this young setter's wild prim. So we had Prim and Chip out, and again, we were pheasant hunting. And Chip slams on point, a gorgeous point, Prim honored. And I did not shoulder my gun. I fist pumped because I was so happy and so proud. In that moment, I was elated that we had just really good dog work. And just, again, seeing the pieces come together for a young pup in training, too, was worth all of that for me as well. We did end up still harvesting the bird. It was a nice rooster. But it was just all about seeing those pieces come together and seeing them figure the world out with you right there next to them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just a marvelous thing. So ladies and guys, if you can't get a dog, that's okay. Go with a person that has a well-trained dog, and you'll have the time of your life hunting upland birds, hunting waterfowl, and hunting sage grouse out west. Wherever you're hunting birds, a dog just makes it better. I guess that's what I would just categorically state.
I would agree.
Do you have more questions for Heather?
No, I think we're good right now. I'd certainly love to revisit with Heather about some other things in the future, but I really appreciate you taking the time today, Heather. It's been a real treat to be able to connect with you again.
And Heather,
I can't thank you enough.
Go ahead, finish up, Heather.
Oh, I will just thank you both so much. It's been a great experience. I'm really looking forward to this series and seeing what other ladies you have on the show. I can't thank you enough for bringing me on your first one. It's been wonderful, and I'd love to revisit a few things down the road, too.
I think we deserve to give Meadow a hand clap on that. What do you say, Heather?
Absolutely.
Well done, Meadow. Well done. I'm excited to see, as you said, I'll just echo it, where this series goes. And ladies, if you want to be on the show, just reach out to whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. Or, Meadow, what's your email address?
Well, actually, my personal email address is meadowjean, MEADOWJEAN, @gmail.com. And if you were interested in the program specifically and coming on with Bruce and I, please reach out to me at my personal email account or through social media, Facebook or Instagram.
And with that, we're going to close this inaugural edition of Ladies of Whitetail Rendezvous. Thank you so much, ladies.
Awesome. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.